What is good, NIO family? It's Rey-Jay back with another video, and in this one, I'm going to be talking about the winning NIO stock, what you should be looking out for the future. I'm also going to do some in-depth technical analysis and give you guys my price prediction for tomorrow and talk about why on earth I see a little bit more upside for NIO. I think it's going to push up just a little bit before it gets rejected and starts dropping to this very key golden pocket zone later during this week. Now, before I give you guys my price prediction and talk about what on earth is going on with the Fed and the overall market, as we do have a speech from Jerome Powell for tomorrow and how this could affect NIO. I'm also going to talk about what's going on with NIO's Twitter page, right? And all these very important things that are announcing. That just goes to show that they're still improving and they still have insane potential. But before I talk about any of this, I have to mention a couple of things real quick. The first thing is I'm not a financial planner, so please don't take this as financial advice. And also, if you guys can, please smash the like button if you want to see more videos like this. It not only benefits me, it benefits the entire NIO community as a whole. And the last things, if you guys can, please check out the Webull link down below and in the description. If you sign up for Webull, the link down below, and deposit any amount of money into the account, you are guaranteed 6 free stocks, each worth up to $2,000. And you could always sell these 6 free stocks for cash and use that cash to buy some NIO shares for free in this limited time offer that ends in just 2 weeks. So please check it out. With that out of the way, let's get on with the video. So looking at NIO, we are starting to respect a bit of a downward trend. And I did mention in my previous video, I did think we'd actually push up a little bit more today, but we didn't quite get that. And we are starting to see this kind of downward trend perpetuating. And I also mentioned in my previous video that in the later days of the week, I expected this thing to fill kind of this gap down here, and we would end up retracing to the golden pocket zone, which is around that $14.4 range at the bottom. So I do expect that to still happen. But before I get into more detail about what I see happening to NIO, we have to look at the entire state of the market. Now, if you look at the SPY, we have some very interesting moves. Now, I expected a nice bounce, and I did think this would push up NIO a little bit for today. We didn't quite see that, so that's not necessarily a great sign. But the SPY does have a little bit more room to push up, and because NIO is already red, I do think that this thing wants to push up just a little bit with the SPY before it gets a rejection. So I mentioned this before in previous videos. I think the SPY is going to push up to maybe 400 to 402, and then we're going to get rejected from there. So we're starting to make those lower highs and lower lows in this downward trend that is still being perpetuated. And look at this right here. We have this gap right here. This very pretty looking gap. I think it's going to get filled on the way down later during the week. And I expect this to actually affect NIO. So if we actually look excuse me, if we actually look at, the NASDAQ, looking at the NASDAQ, uh, it's doing something very similar. It's pushing down, pushing up, down, then up, down, a little bit up before this thing continues down to make lower lows. And I do think it's looking quite bearish. What I expect is another push from the NASDAQ to maybe that $11,700 level before it gets rejected and starts pushing down again. So for NIO, this is what I think is going to happen. Yeah, we're down about 2.68% for the day, a little bit lower than I expected. So what I would anticipate is it's already making those lower lows. I think that this is what it's bound to do. Before I talk about that, though, we have to talk about support and resistance levels. Obviously, we have resistance at 6.12, 6.52, $17, $17.40, and then $17.93. These are the key resistance zones, but I don't think we're going to go to these high levels for a little bit of time. As far as support goes, we have that 15.5 range coming up real quick. Then we have 14.74, then down to 14.43, and we could actually get a bounce as low as that $14 flat range. So be on the lookout for that. So what do I think is going to happen for tomorrow? I think it's very possible, if we look at this from the 1 hour perspective, I think it's possible that NIO actually gets a slight push up, fills this gap right here, around maybe like 16.2, 16.1. We might go a little bit above our resistance and then get a rejection and start kind of trending like this, a little bit down. It's not going to be too dramatic, but we might get a slight push up a little bit later during the day, or we could drop a little lower depending on what's announced. But I think downside is still a little bit more probable. And I do anticipate a slight red day for NIO. This thing may end up closer to that 15.8 range, maybe a little bit lower. But why do I tell you that it could be a little bit predictable at some points? That's because of this right here. On Tuesday, which is tomorrow at 12 12:20 p.m. Eastern time, we have a speech from Jerome Powell, okay? It's going to be a pre-recorded video, and if he does announce something big, the market could move in either direction depending on what he announces. So once again, it's going to be just a few hours after the market opens in Eastern time, and it's at 12:20 p.m. Eastern time. Then also on Wednesday, we have another speech from Lil Brainerd, and she could end up announcing some huge things during the FOMC minutes release. So if big things are announced, something big happens, right? This could be big for the market. So a lot of people are going to be looking at this meeting by the Fed. Big things could be coming out for Wednesday, but we're not quite there yet. We're on Tuesday. We'll have to wait and see what Jerome Powell says. So we could see some shaky price action, I would say around 12 o'clock Eastern time. After that, it's very possible for the market to kind of like trend down after that rejection. So that's what I would anticipate for NIO. If we don't see the downward trend starting tomorrow, it most likely will come a little later. Later during the week, I do expect NIO to start pushing down to that $14.4 level. Yeah, I may not be right on a day-to-day basis all the time. I know that, but hopefully I helped you guys gain some value. And you could see this gap down here, this clear gap around that $14.74 level. I would anticipate NIO dropping a little bit lower and going as low as 14 bucks a share. Now, when it comes to this price action that we're seeing, I want to remind you that NIO is still not a dead cat in the water, even if I do think it's going to drop just a little bit. Because look, NIO announced that on May 21st, NIO's users' cumulative mileage in China exceeded 5 billion kilometers. Okay, we thank you, users, for their support in this milestone. So, 5 billion kilometers driven in these NIO cars based off just their China cars. So, that's incredible news, in my opinion, because look, this thing may drop. It may be a little bit bearish here and there. There will be some downside, but it's not the end of the world because I know NIO has potential. I know NIO is going to push up in the future if you give it the time it needs. It has squeeze potential because of how shorted it is. And also fundamentally, it is going to get pushed up over the next few years as they keep on growing. They're expanding to tons of different countries. Okay. They're investing in multi-trillion-dollar markets such as the development of their AI and not to mention their autonomous technology and NAMI. I think NAMI is going to be very huge for the future. You essentially have a driving assistant with you. They have built-in systems. It's massive, massive news. Their cars are very stylish. They're expanding around the world, and the EV market is just barely starting to explode. So give this company time. It's not going to make you rich overnight, okay? To build wealth, it often takes time. And as for NIO, you just got to be patient. When it comes to a lot of tensions between the US and China, they are dealing with it. They already listed on multiple different exchanges from Hong Kong to Singapore, and they are working with the SEC as I speak to really, really, really be as transparent as possible and really push through all of these obstacles. So I'm still very bullish for the long term. I have not lost faith, but for the short term, there will be a little bit bearish price action, in my opinion, before we get our next bounce, perhaps around that 14 range. So thank you. Thank you so much for listening. Have a great rest of the day, and I'll see you guys in the next one. NIO to the moon, and peace out.